Rejected at 16, factory worker at 20, house arrest at 23, and by 29, champion. It doesn't make sense. This isn't how football works. This isn't how careers are built. Because players like Jamie Vardy aren't supposed to make it. At 16, when he was released, something changed, not just in his career, but in his mind. He didn't see it as bad luck. He saw it as proof that he wasn't good enough. So for months, he stopped playing completely. No training, no discipline, no direction. While others pushed forward, he stood still. And when he finally came back, it wasn't to a club. It wasn't even serious football. He played for local teams, even a pub side at one point. But here's the strange part. Every time he stepped on the pitch, he looked different. Faster, stronger, more aggressive. Like the talent was always there, just buried under everything else. By 20, while others were signing contracts, Vardy was working in a factory. Waking up early, grinding through long shifts, then playing football at the night for Stocksbridge Park Steels. This wasn't a football career, this was survival. And off the pitch, things were falling apart. At 21, 22, 23, his life turned chaotic. Late nights, heavy drinking, bad decisions. Until it caught up with him. A fight. Violence. At 23, he was placed under house arrest. An ankle monitor. A strict curfew. Every single day, he had to be inside his house before evening. Think about that. A footballer forced to leave matches early. Not because of injury, not because of tactics, but because of a curfew. That wasn't a career, that was damage control. And nights were even worse. The ankle monitor would randomly go off, beeping, vibrating, waking him up again and again. Sleep became impossible. Peace didn't exist. And slowly, his life started to feel trapped. Not just physically, mentally. But here's what makes this story different. Even in that chaos, even in that mess, he was still scoring goals. Because no matter how far he had drifted, football never left him. And eventually, something shifted. At 24, he got a real opportunity. FC Halifax Town. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't big, but it was a chance. A chance to train every day. A chance to take football seriously. And for the first time in his life, he actually did. No shortcuts, no distractions, just work. And the results? Immediate. Goals, assist, impact. He wasn't just playing well, he was dominating. 25 goals in one season. Promotion, player of the year. Suddenly, people started asking questions. Where did he come from? Because this wasn't normal. Players don't just appear at 24 and start tearing up football leagues. But Vardy did. And that earned him a move to Fleetwood Town. Now the pressure was different. He wasn't unknown anymore. He had expectations, a price tag, eyes on him. And this is where most late bloomers fail. But Vardy, he exploded. 31 goals, relentless performances, defenders couldn't deal with him, too fast, too aggressive, too unpredictable. And now, the top clubs were watching. Not casually, seriously. Because this non-league striker was becoming impossible to ignore. Then came the moment that changed everything. At 25, Leicester City came knocking. A record signing. For a player from non-league football, it sounded insane. And at first, it looked like it, because stepping into professional football was a completely different world. Better defenders, faster games, higher pressure, and suddenly, he struggled. Goals dried up, confidence dropped, the same doubts, the same voice in his head came back again. And instead of fighting it, he slipped back into old habits. Drinking again, losing discipline. At one point, he was drinking himself to sleep. Vodka mixed with Skittles every night. That's how he coped. That's how close he was to throwing everything away. He even thought about quitting, leaving football behind, starting a completely different life. But this time, something stopped him. Not a coach, not a contract, a moment. A realization that this was his last chance, and if he wasted it, there was no coming back. So he changed, not overnight, but deliberately. He locked in, cut the chaos, focused on football, and suddenly, everything began to shift. At 27, he helped Leicester win promotion. Now the Premier League, the biggest stage, And again, nobody believed. But something was building. Because this wasn't just one player. This was a system, a team, a belief. N'Golo Kanté covering every blade of grass, Riyad Mahrez creating magic out of nothing, and Vardy finishing everything. At 28, everything clicked. Goals started flowing, confidence skyrocketed. Then came history. 11 games, 11 goals, breaking Ruud van Nistelrooy's record. But more than that, he was deciding matches, winning points, carrying momentum. Leicester weren't just competing anymore, they were leading. And week after week, they refused to fall. Until finally, the impossible happened. At 29, Premier League 2015-16 champions, 5,000 to 1 odds from the 8th tier to the top of England. But the story didn't end here. Because proving it once is one thing, doing it again, that's legacy. At 33, when most strikers start to decline, Vardy peaked again, smarter, sharper, and still just as dangerous. That season, he outscored everyone and won the Premier League Golden Boot, the best goal scorer in the league at 33. Think about that. A player who wasn't even professional at 25 becomes the top scorer in the toughest league in the world. Years later, this wasn't luck. This wasn't a one-season miracle. This was resilience. Because Vardy didn't just rise, he survived himself. From chaos to control, from self-destruction to discipline, from almost quitting to becoming a legend. And that's what makes this story different. Because it proves something that most people don't believe in. You can fall behind, you can mess up, you can lose your way, and still come back. All it takes is one moment, one decision, and everything changes.